Good morning and welcome to the Committee on Ways and Means. Committee Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Assembly members Anderson,
Present.
Backus,
Present.
Brown May,
Here.
Dickman,
Here.
Hafen, Hibbets, Howdigi,
Here.
Koenig, Mosca,
Here.
O'Neill, Torres Fawcett, Watts, Yeager, and Chair Monroe Moreno.
Thank you. Will you please mark Assembly Member Hafen, O'Neill, Yeager, and Torres Fawcett present as they arrive. Good morning to everyone joining us here in Carson City and those joining us in Las Vegas and online. Welcome to Ways and Means. I think we got out early enough to get a nice nap to start the rest of our long days. We will have public comment at the end of today's meeting. That number is 669-900-6833. Our meeting ID is 850-823-96043, and then please press pound. Public comment will be limited to 2 minutes each. I will remind everyone in the room and the members on the dais to make sure you silence or put your electronic devices on mute. This is a finance committee. We just talk about the fiscal aspects of bills. Every now and then, we have to have a small part of policy discussion to get to the fiscal aspects that are in a measure, but all of these bills have had a policy hearing, so we're not here to negotiate the policy. The one thing I do insist upon is professional and polite interaction and respectful interaction from my members, but also from those of you joining us in the audience. If you choose not to be respectful, I will choose to remove you from my meeting. So with that, we are going to got a long agenda. We're going to be taking bills out of order. If you are here for Senate Bill 281, Senate Bill 306, or Senate Bill 382, those are all senator members' bills, and I know that they have morning committees, so we will take those at the end so that they don't have to miss their committee meetings. And we are going to open the first hearing because we have our Secretary of State, who I know has to get to another meeting himself, Senate Bill 487. And 487 is a measure that makes an appropriation to the Office of the Secretary of State for costs associated with the Business Licensing System Modernization Project. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Monroe Moreno and members of the committee. Thank you for hearing SB 487. I'm joined by Chief Deputy DeCara. SB 487 is the Secretary of State's one-shot funding request for Project Orion. Project Orion is the overall Nevada's business licensing and commercial recording systems. Project Orion began when this legislature approved SB 485 last session, granting my office $15 million to start the process. Utilizing that funding, we're able to finally get back to a working existing system, Silver Flume, up to what we call a minimal viable product. The team fixed over 600 bugs, drastically decreasing the number of failed transactions and other issues affecting Nevada businesses. We made process improvements that reduced the hold times from an average of 45 minutes in the spring of 2023 to an average of under 5 minutes now. We went out and sought our own resources, receiving $4 million in a community project grant put forward by Senators Rosen and Cortez Masto. This allowed us to begin a complete replacement of Silver Flume to truly modernize Nevada's business portal and put us on the cutting edge of technology. We also reverted back $3.5 million of the original $15 million. I've said this many times, Nevada has lost market share to states like Wyoming and Delaware, and that translates to a decrease in the general fund revenue. We need to make Nevada the ideal state to do business, and an updated portal is an important step in bringing that business back to Nevada. I firmly believe that these funds will have a significant return on investment. Project Orion will allow us to capture and report more data, giving us better information to make better governing decisions. It will improve functionality for Nevada business owners, making it easier than ever to start a business in the Silver State. The Commercial Recordings Division of the Secretary of State Office brings in hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue every year. With this investment, we can go even higher and do more. I humbly request your support for SB 487. Thank you, and we are available for questions.
Thank you so much, Secretary. Members, on your desk, there is an amendment for this bill. However, you can disregard the amendment. That amount was amended in on the first reprint on the Senate side, so we will not need that amendment today. Are there any questions for the Secretary of State? Not seeing any, thank you so much. I'll ask you to take a seat back. And we will invite to the table anyone that would like to testify in support of Senate Bill 487. And not seeing anyone approach the table here in Carson City and no one approach the table in Las Vegas, we'll go to our phone line to see if we have anyone joining us that would like to testify in support of SB 487.
Thank you, Chair. We have no callers to provide testimony at this time.
Thank you so much. We'll come back to Carson City. If there's anyone that would like to testify in opposition of Senate Bill 487, I invite you to the tables. And not seeing anyone approach the table here in Carson City and no one approach the table in Las Vegas and broadcast, I'm going to assume we still have no one joining us on the phone line to provide testimony. Is that correct?
Yes, Chair, that is correct.
Thank you so much, and we'll move to neutral. If there's anyone that would like to provide neutral testimony on Senate Bill 487, I invite you to the tables. And not seeing anyone approach either table and knowing we do not have anyone on the phone line, we'll ask the sponsors of the bill if they have any closing remarks. All right. With that, we will close the hearing on Senate Bill 487. Thank you for joining us this morning. Good luck in your next meeting. Do they have nuts in them?
Yes,
Oh, okay. I won't have any. Moving on, we will open the hearing for our next bill on today's agenda, and that will be Senate Bill 472. 472 makes appropriations to the Nevada System of Higher Education for expenditures related to instructions that are due to caseload adjustments at certain institutions within the system. Good morning. Welcome back to Ways.
Good morning, Chair Monroe Moreno, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Patricia Charlton. I'm the Chancellor of the Nevada System of Higher Education, and I'm here this morning to present Senate Bill 472. This request funds a technical adjustment to the weighted student credit hour value used to calculate the caseload adjustment for the instructional budgets within the Nevada System of Higher Education. NCHE's caseload adjustment is based on actual fiscal year 2024 weighted student credit hours, not projected caseloads. So our caseload adjustment is just to bring funding to the level of our fiscal year 24 student completions for Nevada resident students. This adjustment incorporates the value of the legislatively authorized salary adjustments for FY24 and 25 to the extent funded by the 82nd Legislature. These funds were not considered in the prior weighted student credit hour calculation because the salary adjustment funds are appropriated to the Board of Examiners for the first biennium, but the expenses are being incurred in the campus budget accounts. Thank you for your consideration, and I'm joined this morning by NCHE Vice Chancellor and Chief Financial Officer Chris Fatone, and we stand ready for any questions that the committee might have.
Thank you. Members, do you have any questions? Assembly Member Bacchus.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and thank you, Chancellor, for the quick presentation. I just had a question because I keep going back to, I know last legislative session, we did not go with the funding formula. Rather, we kind of did a little alternate funding formula. So I wasn't sure if, I just honestly don't remember if we came to a student credit hour number that was to be utilized. And so I was curious about that. And then I kind of thought this higher number, the 208.99, is where we went this time, even though we're not really following it. I was just trying to see where we were at to understand that this is kind of a look back.
Good morning, Chris Fatone, for the record. Thanks for that question. The legislature did not calculate a weighted student credit hour value at the close of the session because the budgets were not, the redistribution component of the formula was not used last session. However, we were asked to calculate that value in collaboration with the governor's finance office to submit our budget, and we actually worked with your staff in that calculation as well. And it was actually through that process that we identified that this portion of our budgets has not historically been considered in the weighted student credit hour value. But so these numbers were calculated consistent with that method, with the exception of the the salary adjustment funds that were not considered because they were not included in the campus accounts, but rather at the Board of Examiners.
And then with respect to these amounts, then are these just kind of one shot appropriate looking back? Or are you guys thinking that these are something that needs to be included in the budget going forward?
Chris Fatone again for the record, and thank you for that question also. These amounts were actually originally included in the governor's recommended budget as ongoing funds. This was this maintenance adjustment was one of the items that was amended into a one-shot in that process. So this would certainly be part of our base. We would need this as ongoing base in our accounts.
Thank you so much for making that statement. I think it's important to get that on the record so that at the next legislative session, whoever's sitting in these chairs would know that if this one shot is approved, this really is not a one shot. This is an ongoing expense that's going to change the base. And this calculation has not been historically the policy of the money committees. So do you expect the money, or you're hoping to get the money that would be added to the base, but this would be a change in the historical way that the money committees have made decisions when it comes to caseload, correct?
Chris Fatone for the record again, and yes, I think this would be a change. I think I don't know that it was intentional to exclude the salary adjustment funds from the calculation in the past. I think that's just something we identified when we were calculating it this cycle. Those funds are just not part of the budget accounts when the budget accounts are closed, and so it never was able to be factored in because of how that calculation was done in the prior sessions.
Thank you so much for that. So I appreciate the bill, and I understand your reasoning for it, but as a money committee, we're going to have to look at the bottom line numbers and how this impacts, knowing that this is not a one shot. It really is an ongoing expense and what that means to the budget. Because when you put it on the sheets in a one shot, it has one effect to the bottom line when we get to the ending fund balance. But this is something that would definitely have to be put into the ongoing expenses and calculated that way. Members, any other questions? Not seeing any. I thank you so much for being here this morning. And I'll invite to the table anyone that's here that would like to testify in support of Senate Bill 472.
Kent Irvin, K-N-T-E-R-V-I-N, for the Nevada Faculty Alliance in support of SB 472. So this is just taking care of the increases in enrollments at the 5 institutions that had increases in resident weighted student credit hours from 22 to 24 at the current cost, or actually the 2025 cost of providing those services on the state-funded side. So this is a very important thing. It's, even though we aren't using resident weighted student credit hours anymore for the final redistribution, this is the sort of remnant of the formula that at least does some adjustments for enrollments, and so it's very important going forward.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. Austin Daly on behalf of the University of Nevada, Reno, for the record. We're also in support of SB 472 and want to thank you for your time.
Thank you. Not seeing anyone else approach the table here in Carson City and no one at the table in Las Vegas broadcast. Do we have anyone joining us by phone that would like to testify in support of Senate Bill 472?
Thank you, Chair. We currently have no callers to provide testimony.
Thank you so much. We will move to opposition. If there's anyone here in Carson City that would like to testify in opposition of Senate Bill 472, I invite you to the tables. And not seeing anyone approach the table in Carson City or in Las Vegas, I am going to assume we still have no one on our phone line to provide testimony in opposition. Is that correct?
Yes, Chair, that is correct.
Thank you so much. Then we'll move to neutral. If there's anyone that would like to provide neutral testimony on Senate Bill 472, I invite you to the tables. And not seeing anyone approach the table here in Carson City or in Las Vegas, and knowing that we do not have anyone on the phone line, I'll ask the presenters if they have any closing comments. And they're shaking their head no, and with that, we will close the hearing on Senate Bill 472. Moving on, we will open the hearing for Senate Bill 473, which makes appropriations to and authorizes the expenditures of money by the Department of Education for the replacement of computer hardware and associated software and office chairs.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Celeste Arnold, A-R-N-O-L-D. I'm the Administrative Services Officer 3 for the Department of Education. This morning, we are presenting SB 473, which appropriates roughly $231,851 for computer replacements and chairs for the department. I stand ready to take any questions.
Thank you so much for the short presentation. Members, do you have any questions? The bill that we have before us today is the amended bill. It's in its first reprint, and it has each section delineated saying what the funding would be going to in FY 26 and 27. Are there any questions? Not seeing any. Thank you so much. We'll invite to the table anyone that would like to testify in support of Senate Bill 473. And not seeing anyone approach the table in Carson City or the table in Las Vegas. Broadcast, have we had anyone join us on the phone line to make testimony today?
Chair, we still have no callers to provide testimony at this time.
Thank you so much. We will move to opposition. If there's anyone that would like to provide testimony in opposition of Senate Bill 473. Not seeing anyone approach the table here in Carson City and no one at the table in Las Vegas. And knowing we have no one on the phone line, we will move to neutral. If there's anyone that would like to provide neutral testimony on Senate Bill 473, I invite you to the table. Not seeing anyone approach the table here in Carson City or in Las Vegas, and knowing we have no one on the phone line, we'll ask the presenter if you have any closing comments. She's shaking her head no, and with that, we will close the hearing on Senate Bill 473. The next bill on our agenda for the day is Senate Bill 475, which makes an appropriation to the Division of State Parks of the State Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for the purchase and replacement of vehicles, equipment, computer and information technology equipment, and radios and certain projects. Good morning and welcome to Waves.
Good morning, Chair Monroe Moreno and members of the committee. As was mentioned, I'm here to present on Senate Bill 475, which makes appropriations of roughly $12.8 million for the next biennium. And as is said in the brief there, it's generally for replacement vehicles, equipment, computers, all of which have met or exceed the replacement schedule in SAM or have reached their reasonable end of life. Also includes equipment for new positions that were approved by the money committees, and some funding for continuation of addressing some deferred maintenance projects. It's of note that this does include the reprint includes a amendment that was done to Section 3 that basically just aligns the amount of equipment that we're going to need based on the number of positions that actually were approved by the money committees in our base budget. So I'm happy to answer any specific questions or go through line by line, but that's kind of the broad strokes.
No need for you to go through line by line. Members, the funding for this bill was included in the executive budget. However, that funding in the executive budget was at $13.2 million, so this is a slight reduction, I think, to in line with the reprint of the bill as it was amended on the Senate side. Are there any questions? Not seeing any. Thank you so much. And I'll invite to the table anyone that would like to testify in support of Senate Bill 475. Not seeing anyone at the table here in Carson City or in Las Vegas. We'll go to the phone lines. Broadcast, have we had anyone join us by phone to make testimony this morning?
Chair, we still have no callers to provide testimony.
Thank you so much. We'll move to opposition. Do we have anyone here in Carson City or in Las Vegas that would like to testify in opposition of Senate Bill 475? Not seeing anyone come to either table, we will move to neutral. Do we have anyone that would like to provide neutral testimony on Senate Bill 475? And not seeing anyone approach the table in Carson City or in Las Vegas, and knowing that we do not have anyone on the phone line to provide testimony, we'll ask the presenter of the bill if you have any closing comments. And they're shaking their head no, and with that, we will close the hearing on Senate Bill 475. Thank you for being here this morning. Moving on, we will open the hearing for Senate Bill 477, which makes an appropriation to and authorizes the expenditures of money by the Department of Taxation for the continued development and implementation of the unified tax system. Good morning and welcome to Ways.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Assembly members, thank you. My name is Patrick Starr. I'm the Enterprise Project Manager for the Department of Taxation. I'm joined today by Joe Bernardi, IT Deputy Director for the Department of Taxation. The department is seeking a one-shot appropriation of $12,457,960 for FY26 and $15,281,906 in FY27 for the continuation of Project Mint. These funds are necessary for operating expenses and contract funding for the project, as we'll be rolling out Phase 2 and Phase 3 of the project during FY26 and 27. And we're available for questions on SB 477.
Thank you so much. And members, this appropriation was also included in the executive budget. I do have a question for you. My vice chair may as well have a question, but what concerns do you have that with completing the project, if the general fund appropriations are only provided in the separate years of the 25-27 biennium, if any?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Patrick Starr for the record. We are looking at finishing in FY26. We're going to expend all of our ARPA funding, and then in the general funds, we're going to be looking at that final year, that last little bit there. Right now, I don't have any concerns. If the funding is there, funding is not, I have a lot of concerns.
So, right now, the funds get reverted if with the inability to transfer the funds between fiscal years. Would that jeopardize the completion of the project?
Thank you, Patrick Starr, for the record. At this point, if that funding did get reverted, there would be some concern on my end. However, as I stated, the ARPA funding, we're looking at that drawdown right now to be, this year, we're looking at it to be finalized in November with the additional funding. We'll draw off of ARPA. We've been assured that the ARPA funding will be there and that we can go back to interim finance committee to get that. And then any of the general fund money that would be in this one shot, we'll pull down. So at this point, I'm lacking any concern at this point.
So you say you're lacking any concern. Big IT projects in the state always seem to take us a lot longer and cost a lot more money. Are we on target for the completion date for this with the amount of money that's currently allocated?
Thank you for the question, Madam Chair. Patrick Starr for the record. We have budgeted this project down to the dollar. I am on top of it. I review the money every week, look at any savings or anything we've had through attrition. We're applying that money where we can and making the adjustments as we can throughout the project. Our vendor partner is with us on this. We are on track, on target. We're on budget. We aren't going to miss. That's my service to the state is delivering excellence, and I promise that we will be on time, on target, on budget, and this project will complete at the intended time.
Thank you so much. We're going to hold you to that. Members, any questions? Assembly Member Hibbets.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick clarifying question. In subsection 2, there's an expenditure of $5 million during fiscal year 25, 26, and 26, 27. I just want to clarify that that is $5 million per fiscal year, not $5 million total. Is that correct? Or am I reading that wrong?
Thank you for the question, Patrick Starr, for the record. That $5 million was one set of $5 million. That was it. That was we had reduced in the amendment the total budget of $5 million. We're going to consume that through ARPA funding, which is what that reduction is. But it is only one time of $5 million across the biennium or in the beginning.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Are there any other questions? Not seeing any. I thank you so much for being here this morning. I'll ask you to step back and I'll invite to the table anyone that's here to testify in support of Senate Bill 477. And not seeing anyone approach the table here in Carson City or in Las Vegas broadcast, have we had anyone join us on the phone lines as of yet?
Chair, we still have no callers to provide testimony.
Thank you so much. Then we'll move to opposition. If there's anyone that would like to testify in opposition of Senate Bill 477, I invite you to the tables. And not seeing anyone approach the table in Carson City or in Las Vegas, we will move to neutral. If there's anyone that would like to provide neutral testimony on Senate Bill 477, I invite you to the tables here in Carson City and in Las Vegas. And not seeing anyone approach either table and knowing that we do not have anyone on the phone line, we'll go back to our presenters and ask if they have, and they're shaking their head with no closing comments. So we will close the hearing on Senate Bill 477. Thank you for being here. Moving on, we will open the hearing for Senate Bill 480. And Senate Bill 480 makes an appropriations to the Office of Finance and the Office of the Governor for a loan to the Office of the Chief Information Officer within the Office of the Governor for the replacement of unenterable power supply equipment and related expenses. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Monroe Moreno and members of the Assembly, Ways and Means. For the record, my name is Timothy Galuzzi, the state's Chief Information Officer, Office of the Chief Information Officer within the Office of the Governor. Looking forward to getting that name change soon. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing Senate Bill 480, which is enabling legislation for a previously approved decision unit. This bill is for investment through a general fund loan for the replacement of uninterruptible power supply, or UPS, equipment for the state's SilverNet network infrastructure, ensuring greater fault tolerance, resilience, and increasing managerial oversight for this critical statewide infrastructure. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to introduce Senate Bill 480. I will make myself available for the committee for any questions the members may have.
Thank you so much. And members, this appropriation was contained in the executive budget, and it is a loan that is repaid in annual installments of 25%, and those installment payments would start on July of 2027 and be completed in 2031. The funding split over the two bienniums in 25-26, it's $790,902, and in 26-27, it's $9,450, correct?
For the record, Timothy Galuzzi, I believe that is what the bill states.
Wanted to make sure. Members, any questions? Not seeing any. Thank you for being here. I'll ask you to take a seat, and we'll invite to the table anyone that is here to testify in support of Senate Bill 480. And not seeing anyone approach the table in Carson City or in Las Vegas. Broadcast, have we had anyone join us by phone as of yet?
Thank you, Chair. We still have no callers at this time.
Thank you so much. We'll move to opposition. Is there anyone that would like to provide testimony in opposition of Senate Bill 480? And not seeing anyone approach the table here in Carson City and no one at the table in Las Vegas, and knowing we have no one on our phone lines at this time, we'll go to neutral. If there's anyone that would like to provide neutral testimony on Senate Bill 480, I invite you to the tables, and not seeing anyone approach the table here in Carson City, no one at the table in Las Vegas, and knowing we have no one on our phone line, the sponsor is shaking his head no for closing remarks, so we will close the hearing on Senate Bill 480. Thank you for being here with us this morning. Next, we'll open the hearing for Senate Bill 481, which makes a supplemental appropriation to the Division of Public and Behavioral Health of the Department of Health and Human Services for an unanticipated shortfall related to the cost of provider services in Southern Nevada Adult Mental Health Services budget account. Good morning.
Good morning.
I bet you're counting down the days too, aren't you?
Maybe a little. I'm weirdly nervous this morning, though. Good morning. My name is Cody Finney, and I serve as the administrator of the Division of Public and Behavioral Health in the Department of Health and Human Services. And I am here this morning for Senate Bill 481. Forgive me, 481. We are requesting $1,647,791 to cover an unanticipated shortfall in our provision of services for transitional living and supportive services for community living for mental health court patients. There are about 435 people that get this service from Southern Nevada Adult Mental Health Services. It helps keep them out of jail and the hospital, and we would very much like to continue serving those folks. With that, I will answer any questions you might have.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Members, any questions? Not seeing any. Largely, the amount was included in the governor's, in the appropriations were included in the executive budget. There was a small increase, and that's only $37,056, a difference, but the majority of it was already included as it originally came over to us. But with the first reprint, I believe all the numbers are in line. Members, any questions? Not seeing any. Thank you so much. And we'll invite to the table anyone that's here that would like to testify in support of Senate Bill 481. Not seeing anyone approach the table here in Carson City, and not having anyone at the table in Las Vegas. Broadcast will ask again, have we had anyone joining us by phone that would like to testify in support of Senate Bill 481?
Chair, we still have no callers to provide testimony at this time.
Thank you so much. We will move to opposition. Is there anyone that would like to provide testimony in opposition of Senate Bill 481? And not seeing anyone approach the table here in Carson City and not having anyone at the table in Las Vegas and knowing we have no one on our phone lines at this time, we will go to neutral. Is there anyone that would like to provide neutral testimony on Senate Bill 481? And not seeing anyone approach the table here in Carson City and not having anyone at the table in Las Vegas and knowing we have no one on our phone lines still this morning, we'll ask the presenter if you have any closing comments. She's shaking her head no. And with that, we will close the hearing on Senate Bill 481. Thank you for being here. And we will open the hearing for Senate Bill 496, which makes an appropriation to the Department of Motor Vehicles for Information Technology System projects. Good morning. And welcome to Ways.
Good morning, Chair. You have kind of a DMV feel in here today with everybody waiting for their number to be called. All right. Sean Sever from the Nevada DMV. We appreciate you hearing SB 496 today that will provide funding to migrate the DMV's legacy IT information system to a cloud platform. Once we learned of the Office of the Chief Information Office's strategy to retire the mainframe earlier than we anticipated, the DMV started working on a strategy to align our exit from the mainframe space, which required us to complete an assessment of our mainframe environment. The eight-week engagement with Amazon and partners provided a roadmap, a cost, and allowed us to do a deep dive analysis that revealed more technical complexities than we were expecting. The ultimate solution we have on the table would provide the DMV with a premium resource model that would ensure the highest level of data protection and regulatory compliance, reflecting our commitment to maintaining the integrity of all Nevadans' sensitive personal information. That's Section 1. Section 2 is a continuation of contracted vendor services and licensing for our DMV transformation effort. And thank you for your time, and I have friends that can help me answer any questions.
Thank you so much. I know that we do have a few questions for you, but I'll start with the first one. Members had an amendment that was proposed for this piece of legislation, but it appears that the majority, if not all of the items included in the amendment were part of the reprinted bill that we also have before us. So is there anything new in this amendment that is not in the first reprint of the bill?
Molly Lennon, for the record, Lennon, Administrator for Research and Project Management at DMV. The only addition in the amendment was the balance forward from year to year in the biennium.
So in Section 1, subsection 2, the green language is new, and then again in Section 2, subsection 2, the green language. But the dollar amount and all that remains the same.
Molly Lennon, for the record, there was a reduced dollar amount provided in Section 1, reduced by $267K to $13,780,212.
And that is in the reprint that came over from the Senate in the first reprint of the bill. Okay. So it's just adding in the green language on these two sections. I can cross this part out when I send it for reprint.
Molly Lennon, for the record, that's correct.
Perfect, thank you. Assemblymember Backus?
Thank you so much. And Chair, you answered one of my questions. I think the change on the amendment would just be the fact that it would have to be IFC approved, because it looks like the draft included that the money could be used in either year. And so with that, my other question was just with respect to these funds, how does the DMV plan to monitor its use? And the transfer of the highway appropriations in 2025-27 biennium to ensure that we're not exceeding the 27% cap, because I believe we may have voted that out yesterday.
Sean Sarah from the DMV. We're going to the DMV bullpen for that one.
Good morning, Bethany Musselman for the record. We monitor the declining balance of all of our budgets throughout the year. All of these costs have already been included in the 27% cap calculations.
And thank you for that. And I take it you look at it because in case you have to use some of the funding from, if the money's moving back and forth, you're watching that to make sure in like the first or second year we're not exceeding the 27%.
Bethany Musselman for the record. Yes, that is correct.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? Yes, Assembly Member Dickman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick one, but I'm just curious as to why, especially the modernization part of this was not in the governor's budget. Does it all have to do with the earlier retirement of the mainframe?
Bethany Musselman for the record. Just for clarification, you're asking why these funds are for one-shots and not part of the executive budget?
I guess that's what I was asking, but when you put it that way, you've kind of answered my question, right?
Yes, the governor's finance office recommended we put these funds as one-shots rather than part of the executive budget, but they are still included in our 27% cap calculations.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Members, are there any other questions? Not seeing any. Thank you all. The entire DMV bullpen that came to play today. We'll invite to the table anyone that would like to testify in support of Senate Bill 496. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Andrew McKay, Executive Director of the Nevada Franchise Auto Dealers Association. Briefly, before I make short comments of our support in the bill, dovetail off of what Mr. Sever said about this being a DMV experience. However, I think I can speak on behalf of everybody in the room that we want to be here in this committee meeting room instead of being at the DMV. So no respect to my friends at the DMV. As I said, we fully support this measure. We view the department as a team member of ours. We partner on everything, and anything that we can do to accelerate this transformation process is better. It's good for the consumers, and it's most definitely good for our dealer members. And for that, Madam Chair, we support the measure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Not seeing anyone else approach the table here in Carson City and no one at the table in Las Vegas, we'll ask broadcast, have we had anyone join us on the phone lines?
Yes, Chair. If you would like to provide testimony in support, please press *9 now to join the queue. Chair, we have no callers choosing to provide support testimony at this time.
Thank you so much. We'll move to opposition. If there's anyone that would like to provide testimony in opposition of Senate Bill 496, I invite you to the tables in Carson City and Las Vegas. And not seeing anyone approach either table, we'll go to the phone line and see if we have anyone that would like to provide testimony in opposition of Senate Bill 496.
If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 496, please press *9 now to join the queue. Chair, we have no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you so much, and we will move to neutral. If we have anyone that would like to provide neutral testimony on Senate Bill 496, I invite you to the tables in Carson City and Las Vegas. And not seeing anyone approach either table, we'll go to the phone lines one last time to see if we have anyone that would like to provide neutral testimony on Senate Bill 496.
If you would like to testify in neutral for Senate Bill 496, please press *9 now to join the queue.
Good morning, Chair and members of the hardworking committee. This is Dora Martinez with the Nevada Disability Pre-Action Coalition, and I'm testifying in neutral just to remind the DMV folks to make their website accessible because it's not, as last time I checked, with the mobile, using a mobile phone or a laptop for a person who is blind. I'm not sure about ASL users because I'm not using American Sign Language, but we still, as a blind person, we still do need our IDs, especially with upcoming election. We need our ID and then to provide to be able to vote. So just a reminder, and thank you and have a great day.
Thank you. Broadcast, do we have any other callers that would like to provide neutral testimony on Senate Bill 496?
Chair, we have no additional callers for neutral at this time.
Thank you so much. We'll ask that they're shaking their head no for closing comments. So we will close the hearing on Senate Bill 496. And we will move back to the top of our agenda. I believe we have all of the senators in, or almost all the senators in, from their morning committees. And we will open the hearing for Senate Bill number 6, which makes an appropriation to the Desert Research Institute of the Nevada System of Higher Education to support the Nevada State Cloud Seeding Program. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Melanie Scheibel. I'm the state senator for District 9, and SB 6 seeks to continue our cloud seeding program here in Nevada, which allows us to increase the snowfall in the Sierra Nevadas, increasing snowpack, and increasing the availability of water to everybody in Nevada. And with that, I will turn it over to my friend from DRI.
Thank you, Chair Monroe Moreno, members of the committee. My name is Tracy Bauer, Director of External Affairs at the Desert Research Institute. The legislature's approval of SB 99 in the 2023 session allowed DRI to operate the state-owned cloud seeding generators that were built by DRI. During winter 2023 to 24, an estimated 56,000 acre-feet of additional snow water equivalent was produced from our ground-based network. The project was conducted in the Humboldt River Basin, the Truckee River Basin, and the Spring Mountains. That 56,000 acre-feet of water is enough for more than 140,000 Nevada homes. The cost for this additional water was $10.66 per acre-foot. The continuity of funding that SB 6 will provide will allow DRI to continue to operate this system and keep the equipment in good repair. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Senator Scheibel.
We are delighted to take any questions you might have.
Thank you so much, members. This appropriation was not included in the executive budget, and I'm not sure if you had a chance to go through the bill. The bill would also require DRI to submit expenditure reports to the interim finance committee, so we have an idea of what's going on. It's a general fund appropriation of $600,000 in each year of the biennium. Are there any questions? Not seeing any. All right, you get off easy this morning.
Thank you.
We'll invite to the table anyone that's here that would like to testify in support of Senate Bill number 6. Morning.
Good morning, Chair Monroe Moreno and members of the committee. For the record, Patricia Charlton, Chancellor, Nevada System of Higher Education. I'll be brief. We just urge your support of SB 6. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Monroe Marino and members of the committee. For the record, Jeff Fontaine. I'm the Executive Director of the Humboldt River Basin Water Authority and also the Central Nevada Regional Water Authority. Both CNRWA and HRBWA support SB 6 to continue the funding for DRI's statewide cloud seeding program. Cloud seeding has really been a cost-effective and measurable way to augment water supply and recharge groundwater in both the Humboldt and Central regions, and we appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. You can go ahead.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. Austin Daly on behalf of the University of Nevada, Reno. For the record, we're also in support of SB 6. Thank you.
Thank you. Not seeing anyone else at the table here in Carson City and no one at the table in Las Vegas. Broadcast, do we have anyone who's joined us by phone that would like to testify in support of Senate Bill 6?
Thank you, Chair. We currently have no callers to testify in support of Senate Bill 6.
Thank you so much. Then we will move to opposition. If there's anyone that would like to provide testimony in opposition of Senate Bill 6, I invite you to the tables. And not seeing anyone approach the table here in Carson City or in Las Vegas, and knowing that we do not have anyone on the phone lines at this time, we will move to neutral. If there's anyone that would like to provide neutral testimony on Senate Bill 6, I invite you to the tables here in Carson City and in Las Vegas, and God bless you. Not seeing anyone approach either table, and knowing that we still have no one on our phone line, we'll ask the bill presenters, and they're shaking their head no for any closing comments. So with that, we will close the hearing on Senate Bill 6. And thank you for being here with us. And she has perfect timing. With that, we will open the hearing for Senate Bill 281, which revises provisions relating to certain foster care and behavioral health programs. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair. Am I ready to go? Are you ready? Okay, wonderful. I will keep this brief. My name is Rochelle Wynn. I proudly represent Senate District 3. I'm here to present Senate Bill 281. Oh, sorry, I was going up the stairs.
You can breathe. It's okay.
Okay. Turns out I'm out of shape. It's all this sitting. This has two allocations. One is the use of opioid settlement funds from the Fund for Resilient Nevada to the Division of Child and Family Services. We have been working on some legislation around extended foster care that is included in the base budget. It is something that we have already passed on for the governor's signature regarding the implementation of extended foster care, not only in southern Nevada and in northern Nevada, but also in the rural communities where we have never had that program implemented. And that is set to go into effect on July 1st. There are several programs that have been very, very successful. We learned from listening to our partners at SEIU, who just happened to be in the room when I presented this bill, about one such program, and that is known as LifeSet. It is a program that extends services to a lot of these young adults as they are transitioning from the foster care system. And so that is a settlement, part of that money. Not really related, but enough to be germane is another allocation of approximately, it started off as about $15 million. It was something that we had discussed during our budget committees. Unfortunately, I think we forgot to include it back in, and it was the jail-based competency behavioral health programs that we had existing in Washoe County and Clark County. They had been utilizing ARPA funds, and we did not include them, and they were not included in the governor's budget. As many of the people on this committee already know, that has been a very successful program to make sure that people are maintaining competency after they were returning from places like Lakes and Stein, but also making sure that we are identifying early on when people are incarcerated that they are getting the services that they need so they don't further decompensate with their behavioral and mental health. It is not a competency restoration program, but it is a part of a holistic approach that has been very successful in our jails. So unfortunately, right now, that is general fund. If this committee has any other suggestions for doing that, I know that it is on the agenda for the IFC in June, so we were able to reduce this allocation to, I think, around $11 million in general fund to be able to complete funding that program moving forward. And with that, I would be willing to answer any questions that this committee might have.
Thank you so much for the presentation. And yes, there was conversations that this committee and our joint meetings had about the jail-based program. So it would be $6.4 million for Clark County and $5.5 million for Washoe County for those behavioral health programs. And then and that's general fund, and $2.5 million in the opioid settlement funds for the other program for child welfare services. Members, do you have any questions? There are no fiscal notes associated with this. This is simply appropriations. Are there any questions for the senator? Not seeing any. Thank you so much for running up. And we'll call to the table anyone that would like to testify in support of Senate Bill 281. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Monroe Moreno, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Cadence Matijevich, Cadencematijevich, representing Washoe County. First, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to Senator Wynn for championing both of these programs that she just did an excellent job explaining. I don't think I need to continue on. You've heard from me and from some of my other colleagues throughout the course of this session about the value of these programs. I did want to clarify that the LifeSet program that you heard described here is something that actually we already do have in place in Washoe County. We have kids that are in it, young adults that are in it, and it's really making a difference in our community. So we are very grateful to Senator Wynn for bringing this forward, to all of you for the many times that you have heard us throughout this session about the importance of funding for young adults as they transition out of foster care and into their lives as independent men and women, and also for behavioral health. And so once again, we thank you and would urge your support.
Thank you so much. You can go ahead.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Josh Martinez, representing the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. We're here in support of SB 281. Just give you a brief overview of our SMART program that we use for jail-based competency in the Clark County Detention Center. The Detention Services Division, along with Nevada Department of Public Health and Behavioral and Recovery Solutions, launched a 60-bed specialized mental health recovery treatment program in the Clark County Detention Center in June of 2024. And just to give you some successes that we've had, and with this money, we'll be able to continue those successes and to help folks that are incarcerated, that are facing some of the challenges regarding mental health. 255 patients enrolled since June of 2024. 16 patients have been found competent through the SMART program, and 55 patients is our daily average in the program. And 87% of our patients are 90% medication adherent. So that's just a brief overview. If there's any other questions that the committee may have, I'd be happy to answer those, but this will help us continue that successful program. Thank you, and we look for your support.
Thank you so much. You can go ahead.
Good morning, Chair Monroe Moreno and members of the committee. Joanna Jacob on behalf of Clark County. I'll echo or concur in the comments from Captain Martinez. The Clark County and Metro are partnering on that program, is very successful, and without this funding we would not have been able to continue it, so thank you for that continued support. And then on behalf of Clark County and my other department, like Department of Family Services, like Washoe, we have also the LifeSet program in place. It's a very successful program serving our older youth. The kids love it, so we are very happy to have this funding to be able to continue that, and for that particular population. I won't say anything else. Thank you so much for this report, and thank you, Senator Wynn, also for championing both of these programs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Monroe Moreno, members of the committee. Mary Sarah Kinner on behalf of the Washoe County Sheriff's Office. We just want to thank Senator Wynn for the continued funding for our jail-based mental health unit, which has seen extreme success in Washoe County, and this funding will allow us to continue that program at a level. Thank you.
Thank you. You can go ahead.
Good morning, Chair. My name is Aisha Goins, AESHAGOINS, and I'm here on behalf of SEIU 1107. And our members are just so grateful for Senator for bringing this bill and putting our young adults first. And we just look forward to continuing the programs. And thank you very much for your service.
Thank you. Not seeing anyone else approach the table here in Carson City and not having anyone at the table in Las Vegas, we'll go to a phone line. Do we have anyone joining us by phone that would like to testify in support of Senate Bill 281?
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to testify in support of SB 281, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no callers in support at this time.
Thank you so much. We'll move to opposition. If there's anyone that would like to provide testimony in opposition of Senate Bill 281, I invite you to the tables in Carson City and Las Vegas. And not seeing anyone approach either table, we'll go back to our phone line to see if we have anyone that would like to testify in opposition of Senate Bill 281.
If you would like to testify in opposition of Senate Bill 281, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you so much, and we'll move to neutral. If there's anyone that would like to provide neutral testimony on Senate Bill 281, I invite you to the table here in Carson City and in Las Vegas. And not seeing anyone approach either table, we'll go one last time to our phone line to see if we have anyone who's joined us that would like to provide neutral testimony on Senate Bill 281.
If you would like to testify neutral on Senate Bill 281, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no callers wishing to testify neutral at this time.
Thank you so much, and we'll invite the sponsor of the bill back to the testimony table.
Thank you, Chair. Rochelle Wynn for the record. Just briefly, now that I've caught my breath and we all realize how out of shape I am, I do have a proposed amendment. I know that financial times are difficult, and I've been working with various agencies, obviously, to find additional alternative funding sources for many of these bills that I think ultimately in the long run will save us money. I believe that like our jail-based behavioral health programs already are showing those like not only fiscal results but also behavioral health and mental health results. In addition to these extended foster care programs, I think these are supplemental benefits that also supplement this. I would, if this committee is inclined to do so, I would ask for an additional $750,000 appropriation to the CASAT program to offer an online advanced degree, our graduate certificate in co-occurring behavioral health and wellness. I believe that it would be germane. It is something that I would have to consult again with legal, but I think given the fact that the other amendment was, I don't believe there would be any problems. I think that they are all hand in hand. It is something that I'm going to continue to reach out to the director to see if there are additional funding sources that would be able to take some of these monies out of general fund. But that would be my additional written request for an amendment. And I do apologize to the chair in this committee for that last verbal amendment. It is something that we have been working on, and I would love for it to be considered because, again, I do think that supplementing some of these existing programs that are already doing an incredible job working hand in hand with law enforcement, our behavioral health professionals, will ultimately reduce costs for our state and also make us a healthier state. So thank you for your time and consideration.
Before you leave the table, we have a question from you from our Vice Chair, Assemblymember Bacchus.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Just a quick question on that ASAT program. Is that something that we're already implementing? And if so, have we seen like successes? I know when we were hearing about the program implementation in our county jails, like the officer indicated like what the success was at. So I was kind of curious what this ASAT thing is.
Rochelle Wynn for the record. Yes, it is something that we are currently funding. Director Whitley is here, and I'm sure he would be able to maybe expand, putting him on the spot. But it is one of the existing programs that the agency has worked with and the division has worked with that has proven results. And this would be kind of an expansion of some of that certificate program to give people in our state and educate them on some of these co-occurring, which as we've heard over and over and over again in policy committees as well as these budget committees, it's never as simple as just mental health or physical health or drug and alcohol addiction or any of those things. A lot of times they are all interrelated, and this would give our providers even more skills to be able to treat things co-occurringly.
She doesn't want to put you on the spot, but if you feel comfortable joining and being a phone a friend.
For the record, Richard Whitley, Director of DHHS. CASAT is the Center for Application of Substance Abuse and Treatment, and they actually are a center of excellence in our state and do training. They currently do receive Fund for Resilient Nevada opioid settlement funds, and so I'm sure they would appreciate any enhancement of funding, and certainly the needs are out there. As you know, people with substance abuse issues pass through multiple systems, touch multiple clinicians, and this would further, I think, our state's capacity in the treatment and prevention of substance abuse.
Members, any other questions from the bill sponsor or Director Whitley? All right, not seeing any. Thank you so much. Thank you for the presentation. And with that, we will close the hearing on Senate Bill 281. And we will open the hearing for Senate Bill 306, which revises provisions relating to mental health services for children. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Committee. Thank you so much for having me today. My name is Shelley Cruz Crawford. I am the Senator from Senate District 1 in North Las Vegas. I really appreciate the opportunity to present. I don't take this opportunity lightly, so thank you. Today I'm here to present the fiscal portion of Senate Bill 306, which is an act relating to mental health services for children, specifically creating a task force to develop recommendations for creation of a program that provides housing and other services to children that are in emotional disturbance crises. And with that, there was a fiscal note attached from the Department of Health and Human Services relating to Section 3. My legislative assistant had sent over a conceptual amendment to remove that Section 3, and with that deletion would remove the fiscal note. And with that, I sit to answer any specific questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation, and we did get the amendment. If we could have the agency join the table just to discuss the fiscal note as it was and the adjustments to the fiscal note with the amendment presented. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, Marley McDade Williams. I serve as the administrator for the Division of Child and Family Services. So as indicated, when the third reprint of the bill was put forward, it resulted in an expectation that youth could not be released to a temporary facility. And under that chapter of the law, it potentially would require us, the Division of Child and Family Services, to find housing for those youth or figure out some system. So the amendment, the fiscal note that was put forward as a result of that had a range of, I don't know, 900,000 to 1,300, 1,800, something like that, about what it would cost to, if we were in a position to have to do that. So with the amendment, that fiscal note does go away. The remainder of the bill, where it is asking us to do a task force to consider a system to house children who would be outside of the child welfare system and unable to return to their families, is something the division is committed to doing over the interim, and I'm happy to answer any additional questions.
I have a question. What's the approximate number of children you anticipate this bill would impact in FY 26-27?
For the record, Marley McDade Williams. It's very difficult to answer, but I can tell you I feel like we are managing one or two of these cases about every 2 weeks. Our capacity, as you know, at Desert Willow is really supposed to be for treatment, but we continue to change the model in that facility to one that is more of a housing model than actually a treatment model because of youth that we are having to bring in under various changes. So again, out in the future, what that number will be if we start not having kids processed through the child welfare system could be more significant than it is today, because right now the system does, if a youth is in juvenile justice, released from juvenile justice and doesn't have a home to return to, right now the system is that we call CPS, and then they get moved into the child welfare system. So if we are bypassing that system, that number could grow. But I think that is the purpose of the study and discussions with counties and key partners to figure out what is this universe going to look like in the end.
Thank you for that. Assemblymember Brown May.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Thank you for the bill. Thank you for the opportunity to ask questions relative to this. We had this bill hearing in Health and Human Services. Since then, there's been a couple of amendments. I know that we made one on the floor. I don't know that we've really had an opportunity to get the state to weigh in with regard to how does this new amendment sync us up with the Department of Justice settlement. And I know that the Attorney General's office had come. I'm wondering if we can invite the division to give us a little bit of clarity around that.
Chair, committee member Stacy Weeks, for the record, Nevada Medicaid. I think deleting Section 3 helps us avoid conflicts with DOJ, because essentially it's saying that we're going to be permanently putting, it's almost, you could read almost like we're permanently putting children in a facility. And I think what Administrator Marla McDade-Williams is raising is a fair point of like, we cannot be housing children in a way like it almost institutionalizes children. So I think the amendment addresses that issue. I think going forward, the study will help us. The new language around the criminal pieces, I cannot speak to. I think that might be more in Marla's space, for those are her employees. So I'll let her speak to that.
For the record, Marla McDade-Williams, that new language that creates a crime if there is an assault on a child welfare worker, again, could have, I don't know, potential implications out into the future with additional juvenile justice detentions. But again, I don't know what that universe is. I do know that we have assaults every day inside mental health facilities. As you know, inside hospitals, right? These are not new issues. These are, kids who don't want to be where they're at. And so it's very difficult to manage them at times. So again, I don't know what the implications of that are, but I believe that if you start moving more of them, into the juvenile justice system, then we'll be coming back looking at, how do we expand our juvenile justice detention facility funding.
Do you have a follow-up? You can go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that and the clarity around that, the concern relative to how are our state interacting with youth who have severe emotional disturbance and behavioral health issues, right? Always want to protect the youth that are in these situations and simultaneously protect the health and welfare of our staff, right? And so safety is a big concern. How are we addressing the behavioral health needs? I think, as we've talked about throughout all of our Health and Human Services committee meetings this session, we know that our system needs to be fixed, and I think the study gets us to where we can start to do that, right? And I think it's going to be important as we go forward that we are all on the same team, working in the same direction to help our youth heal while providing the necessary services and supports for them to do that, and not criminalizing behavior that is really a cry for help. And so I just hope that we can do that as we move forward. I don't really know where this bill, to your point, does that for us at this point, and so I just have concerns relative to that, and I want to make sure that's on the record. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I think Assemblymember Bacchus.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And Ms. Weeks, I think you're probably gonna have to come up because I have a question, and it's just something I keep thinking about, because I feel like in 2019, I was working on some legislation when we were looking at like holding parents harmless, like when they have no other option but to seek help from the state for their children. And I didn't realize, I was thinking this bill actually pertained to something else, and it does seem like it's addressing these children that have no other choice. And so I'm glad to hear that the department's kind of moving away from just automatically making them CPS cases based on like parents just not being able to take care of their kids, and it's not really truly abuse and neglect. But just out of curiosity, and you guys all may talk about this during the Health and Human Services subcommittees, and I just don't sit on it, is do we lean in on Medicaid to fill that gap in providing services for these children? At times in my mind, I'm like, I don't even know if they meet coding for that. I just kind of was curious on a fiscal perspective of how we're able to accomplish this as a state.
For the record, Marla McDade-Williams, I'll answer a portion of that, particularly for the juvenile juvenile justice kids, they're not eligible for Medicaid reimbursement. But I think what you're talking about is the relinquishment system that was set up through these mental health statutes to allow a parent to gain access to the mental health system. So we actually have three systems at play. We have the juvenile justice system, the children's mental health system, and then the child welfare system. And in the child welfare system, they are eligible for Medicaid. They must have a certain level of care, right, to meet qualifications to be cared for inside a facility. But they're not long-term placements. These are short-term placements. So I think what we're really looking at is what's the long-term plan for these kids. In the child welfare system, the younger kids are moving into adoption, but it's the older kids, right, who are consistently struggling with adoptive placements, disrupting from adoptions. And so there's just a lot in the system that has to be figured out.
Thank you for that. I look forward to seeing what you guys come up with, because I know it's just certain areas that are hard to figure out, but also looking at it from how the state's going to be able to hopefully stretch our dollars to get it paid for.
Chair, committee member Stacey Weeks for the record. I just want to clarify one of the things that we've been doing with the DOJ settlement agreement in coordination with DCFS is using the new provider tax fund. So the hospital provider tax, 15% of that revenue, which is pretty good amount of money. It's about $45 million. I think it's looking at $90 million in the next biennium, but we can match that money. Usually for every $4 of tax dollars, we draw down $6 from the Fed. So it's really been a valuable asset, as we are probably one of the only states that came forward with the DOJ agreement with money on the table to help address this issue. It is correct that kids in juvenile justice system are not technically eligible for Medicaid, but there is a new requirement that went into effect January 1 of this year that we're able to cover now for the first time ever some of the services they receive 30 days pre-release. That's the challenge, is figuring out how do we get the data about pre-release in a system that's never connected with the healthcare system. We have a team that's working on that right now with the juvenile system, as well as the jails and the prisons, because we're also implementing a waiver from a bill that Assemblymember Yeager had last session to do pre-release coverage for people in the prison system. So once that waiver hopefully is approved, which one of the few waivers we have heard back from the feds recently on, we think it's moving forward really nicely. We will be able to cover kids and adults in the incarcerated or system or the justice involved population 90 days pre-release, which I think really gets us probably a better window for these kiddos. Hopefully they're not in the juvenile justice system longer than 90 days. I think that's where we risk, like we were talking about, criminalizing and really stigmatizing these children. I would just note that one of the challenges for Medicaid, and I think we often deal with this, and it creates friction sometimes with all the different parties, is Medicaid cannot cover, we can't put kids in a residential treatment center unless they meet a certain level of care. And often for the folks dealing with them in the child welfare system, they may believe that this child does need that level of care, but unfortunately the providers assessing them are saying no. And so these are those kids that are really can be challenging to take care of. And, so that is sort of one of the reasons we were having struggles, I think. And where do we put these children? They're not technically eligible for that level of care. And if we put them there, that violates federal law and we won't get federal funding. And it also violates the DOJ agreement to think we're just going to put kids in a residential treatment center and leave them there. So I think this is a challenge we all face. I think we both welcome DCFS and Medicaid welcome the conversations, and they're just ongoing. But I'll stop with that. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I could just, for the record, Marla McDade Williams, and I think, so it's the services, right? It's the support services that get set up around that, which the DOJ settlement and Administrator Weeks are really putting together that hopefully help support families in a real way so that we don't have these disruptions.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? Assemblymember Anderson.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I'm sorry I was not here for all of it. So you might have actually gone through this already. When I take a look at section 2.61, which is the recommendations, would those recommendations be statewide? Would they be countywide? Would they be very specific to districts? Because I think this is incredibly important. So it's kind of silent right now, or would it be all three? So I'm just trying to figure that out.
For the record, Marla McDade Williams, I think my intent with this is to ensure that it is statewide and that even if something comes up that's outside of what's listed, right, that we consider that. That's the appropriate and responsible thing to do. So everything is on the table with all of these discussions.
Thank you. Assembly Member Mosca.
Thank you, Chair. And I know this is a fiscal committee, but with the amendment, I'd like to ask a question. Can we invite the counties up? That's okay. Oh, thank you. I'd like to hear the county perspective, knowing that we are deleting Section 3.
Good morning, and thank you
Good
for
morning,
joining
Madam
us.
Chair.
Anyways. Sorry to put you on the hot
It's
seat.
okay. I'm ready. I'm ready for it. Joanna Jacob on behalf of Clark County. I was thinking about what to say, Assemblywoman Muska, about this. We've been on a journey on this bill. I would say, politely, a journey. And I think one of the things I will echo the comments from Administrator McDade Williams. I think there are many challenges and a lot of work to do in the interim. We're willing to go along with this amendment because we know that the state has come to the table and we are going to be at the table too, and many of the members of this committee. And in fact, Cadence, Ms. Matievich and I have joked that perhaps we'll be also joining you at IFC to report to you at the meetings via public comment on what is happening in the counties. I will tell you, Chairman Moreno, you had asked about how many kids do we think are out there. It's very difficult to think about trying to substantiate numbers, and I think that is part of the plan, as Ms. McDade Williams said. But I will tell you, Assemblymember Bacchus, we have been reporting after the passage of your bill in 2019 and the only part of that bill that was truly implemented was the reporting. The bill actually asked for a clinical review team to be set up and a task force. That I think there were some challenges to setting up those elements of the bill. So we've been reporting. In our 2024 report, pursuant to that bill, Clark County reported 99 children just in 1 year that have been relinquished to the Child Welfare Agency on a voluntary basis. That means that the parents do not feel, for some reason, that they are able to provide the care at home, and they are relinquished into the child welfare setting. With the passage of Senator Steinbeck's bill, also, which is going to clarify that those cases should not be reported into the child welfare system where a parent is seeking care for their child. We do not know what's going to happen to those numbers. I think that's true. We anecdotally think that we may see more relinquishments in this voluntary basis. And I think the challenge, I would just like to say for the record, and because I am on Team County, is that we have consistently had a population at our temporary, I guess we'll call it a temporary facility. It's a child care facility and a 24-hour emergency shelter known as Child Haven. Consistently through the years, we've had a population that is around 100, sometimes exceeding 100 kids. When we have a discharge, let's say a discharge to Child Haven, that is not, we think, an appropriate place also for a child to be who may need a higher level of care. It is not a place where we provide treatment. That was another amendment that we had to take out of this bill, that the temporary facility does not provide treatment. It is meant to be a temporary shelter that was set for when we have to go out in the middle of the night and take kids into custody to make sure that there's a safe place for them to be. And it's not meant to be the substitute for actually clinically appropriate care for the kids who need it. We are doing what we can to provide that care, but it is not our position that that is an appropriate setting either. And it is also known as congregate care. So that was one of the elements of the DOJ settlement. I do not think that we need to, this is something that the state is willing to come to the table, so we're willing to go along with the amendment, but I think there is a concern and there is a cost to the county and it's the staffing, and it's county staffing and staff, and I don't need to belabor the point. I will let Ms. Matievich follow up with anything she may want to say.
Good morning, Chairman Moreno, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Cadence Matievich. I'll try to be brief. Ms. Jacob did a good job of sort of setting the high level. I think from Washoe County's perspective, I would try to leave you with this. Child welfare agencies are created to protect kids from adults. They are not behavioral health treatment programs. And so the continued use of our temporary emergency foster care shelters as sort of these multi-purpose tools, I've been jokingly calling it the Swiss Army knife, right? That's not what these facilities are. And we recognize that we're in a period where the counties need to continue to be partners in helping the state navigate through the conditions of the DOJ agreement. But for us, it's not appropriate for the kids that need behavioral health, and it's not appropriate for the kids that are there who are experiencing trauma. Frankly, they've been removed from their parents, and now there's another population of kids who aren't in an appropriate setting. And so Ms. Jacob is right. The Joanna and Cadence show is going to go on in the interim. You guys are going to be sick of us. But we're committed to being part of the understanding how counties can participate in bringing these resources to bear, while also correcting right now what's a flaw in our system, that we're using our child welfare agencies to fill these gaps. And I think I'll leave it at that. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Assemblymember Haven.
Thank you, Chair. And first, to Clark and Washoe, thank you guys for all that you're doing here. This is, you guys are doing great work. And I know that during the Health and Human Service Policy hearing, we talked about the DOJ settlement and some of the potential risk that would come along with this in potential violation and being fined and things of that nature. And so one of the things that I did discuss offline with the Attorney General's office was if this bill were to move forward, would it be beneficial to maybe make the effective date a little like 2 years down the road, so it would give everybody time with all the other bills that are moving forward to address some of the concerns and make sure that we're not in violation of the DOJ, which then obviously would have a fiscal impact on us if we violate the DOJ settlement. And I was just curious if the Attorney General's office had any, I don't see the Attorney General's office in here, but I don't know if Clark and Washoe can touch on whether or not that would be a benefit, or if the AG's office has reached out to you, Senator, on that. I don't want to put us in jeopardy of violating the DOJ settlement, but at the same time, I want to see the great work continue to go forward. And if it's just a timing issue, then that might be a solution. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Senator Cruz Crawford, for the record. Thank you, Assemblymember Hafen. When you were out, we talked about removing that Section 3. So that should, yeah. But we do appreciate foot stomping that Section 3 is a condolence we all made.
Thank you. And it's been said during subcommittee hearings and again today that the system is broken and we need to find fixes to it. And while this bill is not perfect on the policy side, there never is a perfect bill. But if we do absolutely nothing, then we continue moving with a broken system. I am encouraged that all of the parties involved are committed to continue working on this issue because we're a fiscal committee, we're not a policy committee, but at the end of the day, this is about the kiddos, right? These are about our babies, and we have to do what's right for our babies. And oftentimes, that does mean putting money to do what's right for our babies. And I don't know if anyone's toured Child Haven. If you have not, I encourage you to take a tour of it so you can see it firsthand, and tour the center in Washoe County so you can see what we're dealing with firsthand. So yes, I will not get tired of seeing you in IFC. I'm not chairing IFC this interim, so I will not get tired of seeing you in IFC. Senator Dondera Loop may. However, it's important for this body to hear the updates of how it's actually impacting on the ground in the counties, but also at the state level, the position that we're in on the fiscal side of things, because this is the fiscal committee. So This will be the fourth reprint. I don't know if I've seen a fourth reprint on a bill this session, but it will be a fourth reprint to totally delete Section 3, which would answer the questions of Assemblymember Hafen and answer the fiscal aspects that are on it. But the interim communications and conversations have to continue because at the end of the day, it's about the babies. All right. Members, any other questions? All right, not seeing any. I thank you so much for the presentation, and thank you for everyone that came up as a phone a friend to answer questions for committee members. And I'll invite to the table anyone that would like to testify in support of Senate Bill 306. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair and committee. I just really appreciate the stakeholders, the sponsor and co-sponsors for working so diligently on this bill. I'm Aisha Goins, AESHA GOINS, and I'm here on behalf of SEIU 1107. This bill, I have specifically been focused on this bill for the last 25 days. I will remember because it started during Cinco de Mayo. And de Mayo, my Cinco went. But however, it's the importance of, it talks to the importance of what is going on. And I'm going to read a letter specifically from the president of SEIU, but I just want to touch on a couple of things. Assemblymember Brown May has a concern regarding the protective person's piece. And I can put on the record that the SEIU members, Department of Family Service workers, they are focused on the children. And it is never their intent to harm the children. That's their life. And a lot of these young women and men, it literally is their life. But also they have to be focused on their safety. And this situation has put them in a place where that has to be a concern. So I just wanted to, I've had that conversation with the county, and I just wanted to put on the record that that is not their intent to criminalize babies, ever, okay? Also, you know how your phone goes down and comes back up. Also, I just want to point out one more thing, and it is that emergency temporary housing is not fitted for emotional or severe emotional dysfunction children. And they just want to put on the record that they'll take care and help all babies because they want to help all babies, but they don't want to reoffend the babies that are already there. And that is a concern, and that is what has been showing up. They come from trauma, and they're reintroduced to the same trauma. And so as a foster child myself, I said this on the record many times, one of the things, and I am a survivor of the Washoe County and Clark County Child Protective Service system. There is nothing greater than having parents, foster parents, that care and honor who you're going to be. And it's so important that when we're talking about these children, we're not just thinking about them as children today, but as those future leaders like me of tomorrow, and how these moments can impact their lives. Thank you, Chairman Assembly Member Danielle Moreau Marino, and the committee's senators, and also Washoe and Clark County, the collaborators with the District Attorney's Office, Children's Mental Health Office, Department of Family Services, and SEIU members who work daily, ensuring the safety, well-being of our children in foster care. We also thank the children of Nevada. We are in need of mental health services for giving us this first chance to get it right. We appreciate all the bills that address the needs of foster children and all the children in need of mental health services all over Nevada. We, SEIU, look forward to the state study with Director Whitley, who's in the room, and Department and DHHS, and being part of the process, explicitly the part of the process, as several of the legislators at this table today have walked through the campus of the temporary shelter and seen the need for themselves specifically. Assemblymember Danielle Moreau Marino, we thank you. Please expect a call to the other members of every committee from us to continue to walk a day in the life of a child in temporary shelter. We look forward to being at the table to work with the state to plan to take our children and to not eject them and reject any child who is in need of appropriate mental health treatment and placement. And that is from our president, Michelle Massey of SEIU. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Not seeing anyone else approach the table here in Las Vegas and Carson City, and no one at the table in Las Vegas. Broadcast, do we have anyone join us on the phone line that would like to testify in support of SB 306?
If you would like to testify in support of Senate Bill 306, please press star 9 now to join the queue. Chair, we have no callers choosing to provide support testimony.
Thank you so much. We'll move to opposition. If there's anyone that would like to provide testimony in opposition of Senate Bill 306, I invite you to the tables here in Carson City and in Las Vegas. And not seeing anyone approach either table, we'll go to the phone lines again to see if we have anyone that would like to provide testimony in opposition of Senate Bill 306.
If you would like to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 306, please press star 9 to join the queue. Chair, we have no callers for opposition testimony.
Thank you so much. We will move to neutral. If there's anyone that would like to provide neutral testimony on Senate Bill 306, I invite you to the tables, both in Carson City and in Las Vegas. And not seeing anyone approach, we'll go to the phone lines one last time to see if there's anyone that would like to provide neutral testimony on Senate Bill 306.
To provide neutral testimony for Senate Bill 306, please press star 9 now to join the queue. Chair, we have no callers choosing to provide testimony in neutral.
Thank you so much. We'll ask the bill sponsor if you have any closing remarks.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Committee. Oh, sorry. Shelley Cruz Crawford for the record. I just want to thank the committee again. I know this is a fiscal committee, so I would like to close in saying that the school that I'm a principal of does have a unit, a self-contained unit of 10 students that are classified as severely emotionally distressed, and we are the first line of defense in helping these children. And if we're thinking this costs a lot, I'll have to tell you that I have a unit of 10 kids. I have 1 licensed teacher, 2 support staff members, and then I rotate through 5 staff members each day a week for critical care services. So it's costing my school around $400,000 a year for 10 students to keep them out of these facilities and provide wraparound resources. So we are paying for these children in that aspect as well. So I wanted to let the committee know about that portion. And I'm excited to get back to them on Tuesday when they come for summer school. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you for bringing this bill. And with that, we will close the hearing on Senate Bill 306. And we will open the hearing for the last bill on our agenda for the day. We had it on for Saturday and had to reschedule Senate Bill 382 and invite Senator Hansen to the table. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair and members of the Ways and Means Committee. I'm Ira Hansen. I represent Senate District 14, which is about 38,000 square miles of state of Nevada. Lots of agriculture there. I was approached by the Nevada Cattlemen's Association to see if we could get a system for them to register trailers. Many of them have trailers that are used very little, maybe a week or less a year. And they have a 1-year and a 3-year program for registration currently. This bill would create a new one, which would be 5 years. When they do a 5-year registration, they would pay the full amount, just as if it was the first year, second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year. So the state gets the exact same amount of money, even though the state would only really have 1 year's worth of paperwork to do. So I'm not totally sure why there is a fiscal note to this, but maybe DMV can explain that a little bit. But that's the whole gist of the bill, just so the agricultural folks who use trailers can have a 5-year window for registration, and the state benefits as well by getting all the money up front for a full 5 years. So that is Senate Bill 382. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I know that we'll probably have a few questions for you, but also for DMV. Is there anything in the measure that if a person decides to move out of state, would we have to refund any of the monies that they had paid if they moved out in that 5-year window?
Madam Chair, no, I don't believe there is anything like that, no.
Wanted to make sure. And we'll invite the DMV to the table to join you. If you could speak to your fiscal note.
Hello, hello again, Chair, committee members. Sean Sever from the Nevada DMV. We are neutral on SB 382. We started with a super high fiscal note on the original bill, brought it down with the amendment. The way it is it's a positive impact for the next 2 fiscal years, and then it's really a bubble due to the upfront 5-year registration payments. The impact isn't really fully realized until fiscal year 2029, which will receive no revenue for these trailers. The programming costs would remain as mentioned in the original bill. So overall, it's more of a year-to-year revenue disruption to the highway fund instead of a loss. So thanks.
Perfect. Thank you for that. I know we have a few questions. We're going to go to Assembly Member Watts and then Assembly Member Anderson.
Thank you, Chair. First question for the department. I just want to confirm that you don't see there being any difficulty in for the department in determining which trailers would be eligible for this 5-year registration.
Sean Sever from the DMV. No, we don't have any. Don't anticipate anything.
Thank you. And then the fiscal question I had. So it sounds like we're going to get some additional revenue in the short term. That's great. And I know that there are some other budgets and agencies where there are kind of long-term fees, and they kind of come in all at once, and then there's a period where those fees aren't coming in. So has your agency thought at all about how to handle that as we get towards the later end of that 5-year period to ensure that how you can budget and manage those funds to ensure that we don't end up in kind of a budget crunch situation right before that big wave of 5-year renewals comes back in?
Sean Sever from the DMV. I'm going to go to the DMV bullpen for that one.
Bethany Musselman, DMV. There's really not a lot that we can do on our side. The majority of the impact would be to the highway fund. And while we do get a commission on the governmental services tax that would be collected as part of that 5-year registration, any excess at the end of that budget year gets reverted to the highway fund. And so while there may be an excess in that first year, we would not see that in the remaining 4 years.
Thank you. So basically, and I know we've had a lot of discussions with the DMV as well as other agencies about how tight the highway fund is, and we've talked about the cap related to the DMV. So this would bring in some additional revenue to the highway fund in the short term, and then but anything that's not budgeted or spent will revert back into the highway fund. And so this is something that essentially the various agencies that get highway fund appropriations as well as the legislature would need to keep an eye on in future bienniums to make sure that we're accounting for the fact that some of these revenues have come in on the front end. Is that correct?
That is correct. Bethany Musselman for the record. Yeah. We would get it all in the first year, and then for the remaining 4 years, we're not getting any revenue from those trailers. And so that is as Sean said, a bubble in that first year, and then nothing in the remaining years. And so I think because then that revenue is then taken out of our expected revenue for the department. So that does impact the cap calculations because that's not an incoming revenue in those 4 years. So that would reduce what we would be eligible for in the cap.
Assemblymember Anderson.
Thank you, Chair, and my colleague took on most of the questions I was going to ask, but I just have one. Since these are all going to be done, if this goes through, it's all going to be done all at once. Does that mean 4 years from now, there's going to be a need for more staffing because there's going to be a influx of renewals, which I believe has happened in the past with one other account that we were trying to do the same thing with. So just verifying that if we were to move to this, there's not going to be somebody coming to IFC to say 4.5 years from now, well, we didn't think that we'd have that much more staff needed.
Bethany Musselman, for the record, I don't anticipate additional staff would be needed. These would just be standard vehicle renewals. They could be completed online, which is what we would recommend.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? Assemblymember Hafen.
Thank you, Chair, and I may have two questions if that's okay. And I know we're talking about trailers, and so I kind of want to put things in perspective. I buy a 10-year-old trailer, it cost me $1,000, $1,500. Ballpark, what's the registration annually currently on that? Do you guys have it off the top of your head? I just want to know how much. It can't be more than $50 to $100, can it?
Bethany Musselman, for the record, assuming it's a heavier weight trailer, it's going to be a registration fee of $24 and a governmental services fee of, at $1,500, you're probably looking at $3 to $20, somewhere around there.
So we're talking about less than $50. So if we do this for 5 years, it's actually a efficiency thing for the agency because we'll be able to not have to do labor and everything else for $50 every single year. And so then my follow-up question, Chair, if I may, is to you, Senator, why 5 years? Why not like other states like Montana where it's just a lifetime?
Thank you for the question. Ira Hansen again for the record. I would love that. This is the window that the Nevada Cattlemen's Association requested, so that's why it's 5 years.
Well, there's a lot of differences between Nevada and the way they budget and Montana. They have different resources that we just don't have here. But you can bring that bill next session. Members, any other questions? Not seeing any. I thank you all. If there's anyone that would like to testify in support of Senate Bill 382, I invite you to the tables here in Carson City and in Las Vegas. And not seeing anyone approach either table, we'll go to our phone line and see if there's anyone joining us by phone that would like to provide testimony in support of Senate Bill 382.
To testify in support of Senate Bill 382, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers for support.
Thank you so much. We'll move to opposition. If there's anyone that would like to testify in opposition of Senate Bill 382, I invite you to the tables. Not seeing anyone approach the table here in Carson City or in Las Vegas, we'll go to the phone lines and see if there's anyone that would like to provide testimony in opposition of Senate Bill 382.
To testify in opposition to Senate Bill 382, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers in opposition.
Thank you so much, and we'll move to neutral. If there's anyone that would like to provide neutral testimony on Senate Bill 382, I invite you to the table, and I believe DMV already made their neutral testimony when they were at the table earlier. Not seeing anyone approach the table now here in Carson City or in Las Vegas, so we'll go to the phone lines one last time to see if we have anyone who would like to provide neutral testimony on Senate Bill 382.
To testify in neutral to Senate Bill 382, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers for neutral testimony.
Thank you so much. Well, as the sponsor of the bill, if he has any closing comments.
Just to say, Ira Hansen again, thank you very much for the extended opportunity to present the bill. Much appreciated.
You're so welcome. And with that, we will close the hearing on Senate Bill 382. And thank you for joining us today. One moment, we'll be in just a 1-minute recess. Figure out which bills that we could actually work session today of some of the one-shot bills. We will bring the meeting back to order, members, and we will move it into a work session. And I will turn the mic over to our fiscal staff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Today, the committee heard Senate Bills 473, 475, 480, 481. These were all one-shots or supplemental appropriations that do not have any amendments. So if the committee wishes to approve these bills, it would be do pass.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kaufman. Members, any questions? Here we go.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is Senate Bill 473, 475, 480, 481.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion.
Move to do pass. Second.
We have a motion from Assemblymember Bacchus, a second from Assemblymember Hodeggy. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries. Moving on to the next items on our work session.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Today, the committee heard Senate Bills 477 and 496. These bills were one-time appropriations associated with system modernizations and upgrades. The chair would like to propose amendments to both of these bills to allow the appropriations in the bills to be transferred between fiscal years with the approval of the interim finance committee. So if the committee wishes to approve this, it would be amend and do pass.
Members, any questions? Not seeing any, I'll accept a motion. We have a motion from Assemblymember Bacchus, a second from Assemblymember Hodeggy. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you so much. And that takes us to the last item on our agenda for today, and that is public comment. If you'd like to make public comment, I invite you to the tables here in Carson City and in Las Vegas. If you'd like to call in for public comment, our number is 669-900-6833. Our meeting ID is 850-823-96043, and then please press pound. And please remember to state and spell your name for the record for public comment, and public comment is limited to 2 minutes. And not seeing anyone approach the table here in Carson City and no one at the table in Las Vegas, we will go to our phone line to see if we have anyone joining us to make public comment.
To provide public comment, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers for public comment.
Thank you so much. Members, that brings us to the very end of our agenda. We finished an entire agenda, don't have to come back for recess. I know it's a miracle. Probably won't happen another day this week or weekend. So I will see you all on the floor later. This meeting is adjourned.